Hello, I'm James, your digital guide at SkillSpark. In our last video, we showed you the what and why of building your KDP empire. Now, we're on to the how, the critical step that stops most new creators cold. Getting your book rejected by Amazon for a bleed or margin error is a classic, frustrating roadblock. This video is the technical cheat sheet to fix that. We're explaining trim, bleed, and margins, so your book looks professional, not amateur. Let's spark some skills. Here's the explainer video for you.
Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're getting into the weeds on something that seems kind of small, but can honestly make or break your self-published book. We're talking about the technical stuff, trim, bleed, and margins, that really separates the books that look professional from the ones that, well, don't.
So let's start with first impressions, because before anyone even reads a single word, the physical size of your book is like its first handshake with your reader. And if you get that wrong, you're making a pretty costly mistake right out of the gate.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. Here's a real-world story from a seven-figure KDP seller. He admits he chose a size that was way too big for his genre, and it just felt off to customers. It looked like a textbook. But as soon as he switched to a standard expected size, his sales shot up. That's how much this matters.
So the huge takeaway here is this. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Seriously, the market has already done the hard work for you. Just go to Amazon, look up the best sellers in your category, and see what size they are. That's your roadmap. Success leaves clues, and this is a really easy one to follow.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks. How do you actually pick the right size? This leads us to the very first major decision you have to make, which is choosing your book's trim size. It's all about matching your book to what readers are already looking for.
So what in the world is trim size? It's actually super simple. It's just the final, physical dimensions of your book after it's been printed and literally trimmed down. It's the height and width that your customer is going to hold in their hands. Think of it as your book's final footprint.
You ever notice that? How all the fiction novels on a shelf are kind of the same size? Or all the cookbooks are? That's not a coincidence. Not at all. It's about meeting customer expectations. Someone reading a novel wants something that feels good in their hands. Someone doing a coloring book needs a big page to work on. The size is a huge part of the experience.
And this right here, this is your cheat sheet. It totally simplifies things. For kids' activity books, you're almost always looking at 8.5 by 11. For a fiction novel, that 5 by 8 size just feels right. And for most nonfiction or self-help books, 6 by 9 is the absolute industry standard.
Now this is where it gets strategic. You're actually making a choice here. See, a bigger trim size means fewer pages, which drops your printing costs and can mean more profit per book. Awesome, right? But a smaller, more standard size might be exactly what your audience wants and expects, even if it costs you a bit more to print. It's this constant balance between profit and the perfect reader experience. Okay, great. You've picked your size, but we're not done yet. Now we have to actually design the blueprint for what goes inside the book. And that means you have to get familiar with two really important terms, bleed and margins.
First up, bleed. Sounds kind of dramatic, doesn't it? But all it means is that an image or a background color is supposed to print all the way to the very edge of the page. You know, with no white border. Just think of a photo book or a children's coloring book where the art fills up the whole space. That's bleed.
So how do you know if your book needs it? Well, it's pretty simple. If your book is mostly text, like a novel, you're going to choose no bleed. All your content will sit nicely inside a white border. But if you have images that need to stretch from edge to edge, like in a comic book or a planner with a fancy background, you have to choose bleed.
Okay, now this is a really important technical point. So listen up. If even a single page in your book has bleed, your entire book file has to be formatted for bleed. This means you need to make your actual design file a tiny bit larger than your final trim size. That extra bit gets cut off by the printer, which is what ensures your image goes perfectly to the edge without any weird white slivers. Margins are your best friend, I'm telling you. They're basically the safety zones on your page. They give your book a clean, professional look, and more importantly, they stop your text from getting chopped off or, worse, disappearing into the gutter. That's the crease down the middle of the book.
And Amazon KDP is very specific about this. For a pretty standard book, say under 150 pages, your inside margin, the one closest to the spine, has to be at least 0.375 inches. This is non-negotiable, and it guarantees that every single word is easy to read when the book is bound and opened up.
All right, the inside of your book is all set. So let's talk about the packaging.
the cover. And trust me, creating the file for your full cover is where a lot of new publishers really get tripped up.
So, pop quiz for you. If your book's trim size is 6 by 9 inches, does that mean you make your cover design file 6 by 9? It seems logical, right? But the answer is a hard no.
It's much, much wider. And why is that? It's because you're not just designing the front cover. You're creating one single flat image that has to wrap around the entire book.
Think of it this way. The total width of your cover file has to include the width of the front cover, plus the width of the back cover, and the width of the spine. And that spine width is the tricky part because it changes based on how many pages you have. A skinny 50-page book is going to have a much thinner spine than a big 400-page one. But hey, don't start stressing out and grabbing your calculator. Amazon has a free tool that's a total lifesaver. It's called the KDP Cover Calculator. You just tell it your trim size, your exact page count, and paper type, and poof, it spits out the exact dimensions you need. It takes all the guesswork out of it.
So let's just zoom out for a second and see how all these little pieces fit together. We've gone from the big picture idea of your book's size all the way down to the nitty-gritty details of setting up your files.
So here it is, your final checklist to make sure your book looks totally pro. Number 1, pick a standard trim size for your genre. Number 2, set up your interior pages with the right bleed and margin settings. And number 3, use that cover calculator to get the perfect dimensions for your full wraparound cover.
Nailing these 3 technical steps is what's going to elevate your book. It's the difference between something that kind of screams, "I made this myself," and a professional product that looks like it belongs on a shelf at Barnes & Noble. It's all about creating a great experience for your reader. And that's really what I want to leave you with. Your book's physical design, its size, its layout, its cover, it's all sending a message. It communicates quality and care. So before a reader even gets to your first sentence, what is your book's design telling them? Make sure it's sending the right message.